Okay, very good. So while we are waiting for some viewers to join this live, we will just wait maybe for a couple of minutes. Gary, thank you very much for joining. بینندگانی که الان وصل شدن به برنامه لایو ما یه چند دقیقه صبر میکنیم که دوستان بتونن وصل بشن و ظرف چند دقیقه شروع خواهیم کرد. Gary, it's very nice to have you here with us. Are you in Sweden at the moment?
Yes, I'm in Stockholm in Sweden.
Stockholm.
And it's very, very beautiful here. Yeah.
I bet. Yes. What time is it over there now?
It's 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Doesn't look like that with the sunlight and so on.
Oh, I'll tell you, you know, the sun never sets at this time of year.
It never sets during this time.
It's like all that, and then especially in the morning, that's a real, you know, the sun's up early, so you tend to wake up if you don't get blinds to, you know, keep the sun out when you're trying to sleep.
That is interesting. Yes, it should be. Gary, I was just having a look at your background, and it looks like I realized that you have a degree in psychology, and also you are an internationally certified yoga therapist. So while we are pending for more viewers to join, maybe we spend the first couple of minutes just to go, and you explain to us the difference between psychology and yoga therapy.
Yeah, of course. So we all kind of have some experience or knowledge of psychologists and what they do. They have these kind of discussions with people, and there's cognitive behavior therapy and all kinds of different types of psychology. With yoga therapy, what we're working with is mostly, we do like, you know, talking with people, and that can be, some people concentrate and specialize just in that. Other people can work solely with the body as well. As a yoga therapist, you might be involved more like a physiotherapist working with the body and how that functions. We also bring in breathing techniques and different kinds of meditation. So there's a wide variety and a big spectrum of activities that you can do as a yoga therapist. I tend to go more towards the discussion type of work with a lot of breath work as well. I find breath work is a great way to access the kind of emotionality and the mind connection to make that connection. So I tend to work a lot with breath work and, you know, also physical activity and motion, but mainly that as a doorway into dealing with like deeper things.
That is very interesting, actually. The breath work that you're going to, I'm hoping, explain more into details today to our viewers. We are 3 minutes into the talk today, and I think it's better to start the live session because we also have 1 hour limit for this live session. So a very warm welcome to all of you joining us live today on this live series for Nava International. My name is Dr. Morad Malekghasemi, and I will be your host today, connecting from New York. And together with me is Mr. Gary Fabbri, who is connecting from the other side of the ocean in Stockholm, Sweden. Gary holds a degree in psychology, a master's degree in business administration with a focus on organizational behavior. Gary is also a therapist, a yoga therapist, internationally certified yoga teacher, a writer, an artist, and a presenter. Gary today is going to talk about the emotional detoxing, and he has put together a wonderful presentation that he's going to share with us shortly. And I will be translating, but for the sake of time, I will not be translating from English to Farsi verbatim, whereas I'll be just translating the gist of Gary's points for our Farsi speakers. سلام و خیر مقدم عرض می‌کنم خدمت تمام دوستان عزیز به برنامه دیگری از سری برنامه‌های لایو در اینستاگرام در نوا اینترنشنال خوش آمدید. دکتر مراد ملک‌قاسمی هستم از نیویورک در خدمت شما با میهمان این هفته آقای گری فبری که از استکهلم در سوئد وصل شدن به این برنامه لایو. آقای گری کارشناس روانشناسی و دارای مدرک مدیریت، ارشد مدیریت با تخصص در روابط سازمانی هستند، رفتار سازمانی. در ضمن ایشون نویسنده، هنرمند، یوگا تراپیست و مربی بین‌المللی یوگا هستند. آقای گری امروز یک پرزنتیشنی آماده کردن که در فاصله کوتاه ایشون شروع خواهم کرد این پرزنتیشنش رو نشون میدن و بنده هم از انگلیسی به فارسی ترجمه خواهم کرد. منتها به خاطر ضیق وقت کلیه صحبت‌هایشون ترجمه نمیشه، تا جایی که ممکن هست روی پرزنتیشن کلمات به فارسی نوشته شده و من فقط لپ کلام رو ترجمه خواهم کرد به فارسی. On that note, Gary, thanks for coming and thanks for being here. I will go ahead and share the screen and share the presentation.
Great. So when we were discussing the topic for our discussion today, one of the things that came up was I know that you're working towards a whole sequence of detoxing, and we all know and spend a lot of time, especially with physical detoxing, and I know that you and your group are going to dig deeper into that. But we thought we would cover mental and emotional detoxing and ways to access that side of ourselves. So that's basically the kind of summary of what we'll discuss today. And we can look at the idea of the states of being, because basically when we start to talk about detoxing, we automatically start with the body, the state of the body. We think, oh, how do I feel? What's going on inside of me? What's happening around me? I'm taking a lot of stuff in. But we have other states. We can move to the next slide, and we can discuss these little areas. So if we start with the state of body, that's like the obvious stuff that we see around us all the time. But we also have the state of mind, and if anything, that's the area where we really need the detoxing, because it just keeps coming in. We all know these kind of recurrent thoughts that we have, this kind of chattering in our mind, and how do we get rid of that? How do we release that side of ourselves? So that's like a huge part of the whole detoxing picture. The state of the heart is a little bit more difficult to access, but when we have feelings that are disruptive, that are bringing us down, that can lead us to a downward spiral of depression or something like that, we definitely want to sort of try to find a way to clear that out as well. So all of these things work together, but the ultimate place that we want to find ourselves is in a state of being that is detoxified, that is clear and clean, and that we can feel like we are released. And so that's the kind of progression of what we're going to talk about. This is just a little summary to give a picture of what we're going to talk about right now. And then we're going to go into some of the pains first and work our way through a little bit, and then give some techniques as well. So that's a kind of general idea or picture about what we're going to cover over the next 45 minutes or so.
Thank you. Just a quick translation for our Farsi speakers. جلسه امروز راجع به پاکسازی هیجانات خواهد بود. ما وقتی راجع به پاکسازی میشنویم، تا کنون شاید خیلی شنیده باشید، بیشتر مربوط به پاکسازی بدن بوده و اینکه چجوری بتونیم بدنمون رو تمیز بکنیم از سمومی که در اون در طول سالها انباشته شده. برای مثال دوره‌های مختلفی هستش که الان میتونید خیلی‌ها شاید شنیده باشید که این دوره‌ها کمک میکنن که شما بتونید بدنتون رو از اون سموماتی که در بدن انباشته شده تمیز بکنید. ولی برای اینکه بدن کلاً تمیز بشه ما لایه‌های مختلفی داریم. غیر از بدن فیزیکی ما لایه ذهنی هم در بدن وجود داره که باید به اون ذهن هم برسیم و بتونیم اون رو هم پاکسازی بکنیم. همینطور قلب هستش، پاکسازی حس‌ها، حواسی که در قلب هستش، فضای حسی ما، و تمام اینا برای این هستش که بتونیم برسیم به اون وضعیت بودن. اون وضعیت بودن خالص رو اگر بتونیم بهش دسترسی پیدا بکنیم و اون رو پاکسازی بکنیم، کمک میکنه به بهتر بودن حال ما و به خوشحال بودن ما. این کل مطلبی هستش که امروز صحبت خواهیم کرد در اسلاید بعدی.
Great. So let's look at some of the pains that we have. If we take away, let's say, the physical pains that we're going to discuss in the physical and the body detox. So when we ask ourselves, what is it that's really bothering us in our lives? Is it that we're thinking about things constantly? Is it that we don't have the things that we want, that we don't have the things that we need? Why are we not happy? What is it that's not fulfilling for us? And why do we start to keep those things inside and they kind of make us feel bad about ourselves? What's happening inside? So as we start to think about oh, you know, I wish I had done that. I hope I do this. These are the kinds of things that we would love to work with in terms of emotional and mental detoxing, because they kind of eat and chew away at our lives. And basically, it's our lives that we have to take control of and decide what we want to get rid of, because there's no one else inside there except for us to do that. And then the questions come up, what do we need and what do we want? Now, we can have many of our basic needs fulfilled. We can think about having safe, secure environment, having food and shelter, and work our way up to a point where we feel like, oh, now these kind of higher functioning things can be dealt with. And then there's a progress there. If we're feeling unsafe and unsecure, of course, then we have to deal with that right away. Those are physical needs. But once we get beyond that, it's mostly the mental and emotional things that kind of eat away at our lives. And the other question is, what do we want? If we ask anyone really what they want, they may say, oh, I want a new car, I want a house. But ultimately, the layer underneath that is, I want to be happy. I want to feel joy in my life. I want to wake up in the morning surrounded by people that I care about. Those are the kind of most important things. And those are the things that if we work at detoxification, if we work at clearing away the things that bother us, they'll start to come to us. And that's what we're kind of talking about right now.
Very good. Thank you. در این اسلاید مشکلات و دردها به صورت چند نکته اینجا مطرح شده. چه چیزی هستش که واقعا شما رو اذیت میکنه؟ این سوالات رو میتونید از خودتون بپرسید. این واقعا چیه که داره شما رو اذیت میکنه؟ چرا حالمون خوب نیست؟ چرا خوشحال نیستیم؟ و در درون ما واقعا این چیه که داره میگذره؟ اینا افکار چیزهایی هستن که در لایه‌های ذهنی اتفاق میفتن. اینکه کاش این کار رو میکردم، کاش این کار رو نمیکردم و در گذشته موندن. اینا همشون باعث میشه که در لایه‌های عمیق در ذهن از درون بخوره و اون زندگی رو از کیفیت زندگی رو از بین ببره. و این خود ما هستیم و کسی غیر از خود ما نیست که باید کنترل ذهن و به تبع آن کنترل زندگی خودمون رو بر عهده بگیره. دو مورد آخر، چه چیزی میخواهیم و چه چیزی نیاز داریم. نیازها شاید در هلم مازلو اگر نگاه بکنید اون چیزهای فیزیکی باشه که در اون پایین هستش، یعنی میتونه نیاز به امنیت باشه، نیاز به غذا باشه. ولی وقتی به درجات بالاتر میری در هرم مازلو، شاید اینطور بشه برداشت کرد که نیازهای ذهنی هستن اینجا، منتال. ممکنه که از یک نفر بپرسید که واقعا چی میخوایی، بگه که ماشین میخوام، خونه میخوام. ولی وقتی عمیق میشین و به درون میرین، میتونید با درون خودتون ارتباط برقرار بکنید، خواهید به نتیجه خواهید رسید که واقعا اون چیزی که میخواهید شاید ماشین نیست، شاید خونه بزرگتر نیست، دلیل اصلیش خوشحالیه، بودن در کنار دیگرانه. این هستش که میخواهید. در این صحبت کوتاه که راجع به emotional detox یا پاکسازی هیجانی صحبت خواهیم کرد، به این موضوع میخوایم اشاره بکنیم که چجوری بتونیم با بعضی تکنیک ها ذهنمون رو و به تبع اون هیجاناتمون رو پاک بکنیم که بتونیم به اون درجه برسیم که بتونیم این نیازها رو واقعا تشخیص بدیم.
So, resistance. We have these, problems and pains that we've just discussed, and we can all think of specific things. It may be our boss irritating us. It may be the kids not doing what we'd like for them to do. It may be that we need more money or want something else. And the main question that we get to when we start to think about these things is the idea of resistance. And the first question is, why don't we allow ourselves to be happy? Let's say that we have, the basic needs fulfilled. We have our food, we have something to drink, we have a house, or a place to live. What is it that is not allowing ourselves to be happy? And what inside of ourselves is stopping that? Is it our thoughts? Is it the way that we feel? Is it our body? How do we treat ourselves? So when we think about, here I am sitting here and I feel miserable. I wish that, he would stop doing that. I wish that she would stop doing this. And it's just kind of coming in all the time. And you feel this kind of tension, but there's no one there. Maybe you had an interaction a day before, or 2 days before, that something irritated you, and you're continuing to live with that the whole time. What we want to do is clear that stuff out, clean that stuff out, get it out. There's no reason to hold that in. And we're resistant. We hold that stuff in because maybe through the years, we've collected a kind of a habit of letting the mind tick away. And so we want to ask ourselves, what's standing between us and who we want to be? Do we want to meet the world and meet the people that we encounter every single day with kind of thoughts of, oh, I just came from this and I didn't get what I wanted and I feel miserable and I just wish I didn't have so much to do and I'm stressed? Or do we want to think in a different way? And the last question is, who's stopping us from doing this? It's only us. Everyone wants you to be your best self, your most happy self. Every single person that you meet, that if you encounter them, you want to come across as like, oh, wow, that's just a wonderful person. I just love to talk to that person. I love to spend time with that person. It's up to us to be that. And we can find some tools and some strategies to find ways to get rid of this stuff. But let's deal with our own resistance to it, because that's one of the first areas that we need to look at.
Thank you. در این اسلاید موضوع مقاومت هست. رزیستنس یا مقاومت، اون مقاومت ذهنی هستش. چرا ما به خودمون اجازه نمیدیم که شاد باشیم و ما داریم با خودمون چجوری رفتار میکنیم؟ در یک جای معروفی گفته بودن اگر کارهایی که ذهن ما داره برای خود ما میکنه رو در بلایی که ذهن ما سر ما میاره و اون افکاری که از گذشته مونده رو ما داریم در ذهنمون نشخوار میکنیم، اگر اون کاری که ذهن ما با ما میکرد و یک فرد دیگه انجام میداد با ما، اون آدم رو حتما زندانی میکرد به خاطر کارهای بسیار بد و اذیت کننده که اون ذهن داره با ما انجام میده. مقاومت هم همینطور هستش. ما شاید به دلیل اینکه ذهنمون یاد گرفته در طول سالها که افکار رو با خودش حمل بکنه و نذاره این افکار بره، راجع به همکارامون، راجع به رئیسمون، راجع به دوستان، آشنایان و یا هر کسی، هر اتفاقی که میفته، ذهن عادت کرده که اینها رو ول نکنه، بچسبه. اون رئیس گذاشته رفته، اون فرد گذاشته رفته، دیگه اونجا نیست، ولی این فکر با ما مونده و همینطور تکرار این باعث میشه که کیفیت زندگی از بین بره و منجر حتی به بیماری‌های جدی بشه. سوال واقعی این هستش که چه کسی جلوی ما رو گرفته؟ چرا داریم مقاومت میکنیم؟ این چیه که جلوی ما رو گرفته؟ و جوابش فقط خود ما هستیم. خود ما هستیم که مقاومت میکنیم و نمیخوایم از اون افکار جدا بشیم. حالا ما تکنیک هایی رو معرفی خواهیم کرد در این جلسه که شما میتونید از این تکنیک ها استفاده بکنید، چون که میخوایم تمام اینها رو بشوریم و بندازیم از ذهنمون بیرون و به تبع اون هیجاناتمون. Gary, I have a question over here. You mentioned, why do we not allow ourselves? For me, that sounds like as if we are constantly or consciously not allowing. Basically, we are aware of that, but not allowing ourselves to be happy. Is that true?
You know, we would really love to blame our boss or blame our circumstances. Or blame the traffic for being annoyed. For me, it's traffic. I get extremely annoyed when people drive too fast or threaten me with their car. I jump right into my fight or flight mode right away, and it's like so easy, and I want to like yell at that person. And ultimately, it's up to me to sort of control and look at that emotion and to be curious about it. So yes, in very, very almost all the time, in 99% of the times, it's up to you to make the steps to switch over so you allow yourself to be happy. It's not up to somebody else. And we don't want to take that little bit of responsibility, but that's one of the big keys right there, to take responsibility for that.
All right, so let's go to the next slide. Here is acceptance.
Sure. Yeah, acceptance is one of the starting points, and this leads us into the ways that we can start to deal with the pains brought on from our emotional and our mental activities. And the first thing is to, you know, we've all heard about mindfulness and allowing. So the first step in the process is to say, here I am. This is the way that things are. I am feeling annoyed. I do think that things bother me that shouldn't bother me. I do wish that my life were better. I want a new car. All these things are part of who we are at this very moment. And so just be mindful and aware of exactly the state of mind and the state of emotions that we are in right now. Once we start to become aware of that, then we can look at actually where we are right now and be very mindful of the exact present moment. And this is where, you know, meditation and the things they'll talk about, breathing and everything, can start to open doorways to things. But the first step is acceptance. It's realizing this is the way my life is. I am irritated, and then the relationships that I have and the things that I want are prohibited from me. I'm prohibiting myself from getting them because of the way that I am. So that's a huge step right there. So accept who we are and see how you are in this very moment.
Very good. Thank you. Acceptance یعنی پذیرش. بعد از مقاومت مرحله پذیرش هستش که در این مرحله در کلام بسیار ساده این که در حضور در لحظه باشه، اجازه بدیم که در لحظه باشیم، ذهنمون در لحظه زندگی بکنه خودمون. سوالی که من در اسلاید قبلی از آقای گری پرسیدم ولی ترجمه نشد این بود که در اسلاید قبلی گفته بودن که چرا به خودمون اجازه نمیدیم شاد باشیم و من پرسیدم که این سوال این رو ایما میکنه که انگار خودمون مسئول هستیم و در جواب گفتن که بله، میتونه اتفاقاتی که در اطراف ما میفته، اتفاقات متعدد، برداشت ذهنی ما باشه. برای مثال چرا این فرد این حرفو زد، چرا هوا اینطوره و یا موضوع ترافیک که خیلی ها در شهرهای بزرگ درگیرش هستن. ولی در 99% موارد برداشت ذهنی ما و اون حالت درونی ما، state of being، اون حالت درونی ما هستش که به ما دیکته میکنه اون وضع چطور باشه، ما با چطور به اون واکنش نشون بدیم. همینطور در اینجا حالت پذیرش، اولین قدم این هستش که از حالت مقاومت به حالت پذیرش بریم، پذیرا باشیم و در حالت سکون، در حال حاضر حضور داشته باشیم و بعد از اون پذیرای اون حالت باشیم.
Great. So whenever we're going to do any kind of work on ourselves, it's extremely important to connect first. And there are different ways that we can connect to ourselves because, you know, if we say that we have this body, this mind, these emotions, and this state of being, they're all kind of just all happening all the time. And so by simply finding ways to connect, then we can come into a place where we can actually work on the things that we want to work on. And in this case, we're talking about emotional and mental detoxing. So basically and we're going to be doing some breathing, you could be meditating or you could be playing a musical instrument, whatever it is that connects you to yourself so you can start to align with that state of being that's deepest inside of you and act from that state of being, because ultimately, deep inside of you, you are perfect. You are beyond the mind, beyond the emotions, and beyond the body. So let's find a way to connect with that spirit, that center. And today we'll do a little breathing technique, but I'll let you talk about this first, and then we'll go into our breathing.
Thank you. مرحله بعد مرحله وصل بودن، اتصال هستش. در این مرحله همینطور که میبینید ارتباط ذهن و بدن یا ذهن با بدن، تنفس و سکون ذهنی و کلا رفتن به عمق هستش و در این جلسه در اسلاید بعدی خواهید دید که تکنیک‌های تنفسی برای این کار ارائه خواهد شد. هدف این هستش که ما بتونیم به اون کنه وجودی، به اون عمق وجود خودمون برسیم و بتونیم در اونجا دسترسی پیدا بکنیم به جایی که در عمق ما هر کسی کامل و بدون عیب هستش، بتونیم آری از هیجانات هستش، شاید بهتر باشه بگیم، و برای اینکه بتونیم به اون مرحله دسترسی پیدا بکنیم، به جایی که آری از هیجانات هستیم، به خصوص هیجانات منفی که اون مرکز هستش یک سری تکنیک‌های تنفسی در سلایدهای بعدی نشان داده خواهد شد.
Great. So we're just as a little precursor to going into a breathing practice together. We'll just talk about breathing, or in the yogic world, which we call it pranayama. And prana can be translated as the life force, life energy. And yama is this kind of control. It's not control like totally controlling, but it's working with something. So like the way you might control, a charioteer might have controlled a whole bunch of horses in the past, that kind of steering the life force. And we'll be connecting with the breath, and we'll do a little practice together. One of the reasons why we deal with the life force through the breath is because it's one of the few ways that we can actively access the internal organs of our body. So when we start to think about our body, very few people can immediately control their heartbeat. Only these kind of like advanced yogis are able to sort of do these kind of bodily tricks through a lot of practice. But through the breath, we have access to control the amount of oxygen, control the amount of relaxation, connect with the vagus nerve. We'll talk about this in a moment, a little bit more. But just to say that the way that we access the body, release the body, so the mind can work at different levels and the emotional center is clearer, we'll do that through the breath and breathing. And we'll do a little practice together if it's okay with you.
Certainly, yes.
Looking forward
to that. All right, so just quick translation. یکی از این تکنیک هایی که صحبت کردیم تکنیک های تنفسی یا پرانایاما هستش. پرانایاما اونایی که با اشتانگا یوگا آشنا هستن، یکی از اون 8 قسمت یوگا هست، پرانایاما یا تکنیک های تنفسی. پرانا به معنی نیروی هستی بخش، هستی دهنده، و یاما به معنی کنترل، منتها نه به معنی کنترل و به معنی جهت‌دهی بیشتر استفاده میشه. یکی از عمده دلایلی که از پرانایاما ما اینجا استفاده می‌کنیم اینه که از معدود تکنیک‌هایی هستش که به فرد این اجازه رو می‌ده بتونه دسترسی پیدا بکنه به ارگان‌های درونی و بتونه اونها رو کنترل بکنه. تنفس یکی از راه‌هایی هستش که ما می‌تونیم از طریق کنترل دم و مدت زمان نگه داشتن و بازدم میزان اکسیژن رو در بدن تعدیل بکنیم و باعث بشه که اعصاب مختلف در بدن تحریک بشن، مثل اعصاب مثل وگس نروز، و اینکه مغز دستورهای مختلفی به قسمت‌های مختلف بفرسته که باعث ریلکس شدن بدن، ریلکس شدن عضلات و ریلکس شدن ذهن میشه.
Great. So let's start by we'll do a little breathing practice right now. And so let's get comfortable wherever we're sitting in our chairs, or if we're lying down, we're lying down comfortably. Sit upright so have some integrity in the body, and maybe just move the shoulders a little bit just to relax, especially if we've been sitting, and then just kind of settle in. So before we do any breathing, let's just notice how we're feeling right now in the body. Notice our state of mind, what we're thinking about. Maybe we're totally concentrated on our talk today, or maybe there are other things that are coming in. Just pay attention to what we're thinking. Notice how we feel. How do we feel right now as we start to come more and more deeply into the body? How do we feel emotionally? And so I've chosen, for us, there are many pranayama techniques, and I've chosen one that's really a very beautiful technique for calming the nervous system. It's used by many people. It's called box breathing. It's used by the Navy SEALs, for instance, to help control themselves when they're going into very advanced and dangerous situations. So it's extremely good for allowing ourselves to come into a very clear thinking mindset. And basically, it's very simple. I'll just explain it first, and then we'll do it together. We'll do a few rounds of box breathing. We're going to breathe in for the count of 4. I'll count the whole time. So we're breathing in like this, in. Then we're going to hold with the breath in for a count of 4. And then we're going to breathe out for the count of 4. 2, 3. And then we're going to hold with the breath out for the count of 4. So it's creating a box with our breath, okay? So before we begin, I'll guide you the whole time. So first, just take a moment.
Can I just quickly translate for those who...
Oh, yes, go ahead, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
تکنیکی که الان می‌خوایم ارائه بدیم در اینجا یکی از تکنیک‌های مختلف پرانایاما هست. برای این کار از شما دعوت می‌کنیم که راحت بشینید روی اون صندلی که هستید. برای اینکه راحت‌تر باشید حتما تکیه بدید، پشتتون صاف باشه. شونه‌ها رو کمی تکون بدید برای اینکه بشه ریلکسشون کرد و شونه‌ها آویزون راحت باشید. تکنیک‌های مختلف پرانایاما یا تکنیک‌های تنفسی وجود داره. تکنیکی که در اینجا انتخاب شده که بسیار روش قدرتمندی هستش و خیلی دقیق کار میکنه، بهش باکس بریدینگ میگن. باکس به معنی جعبه، 4 تا طرف داره، 4 وجه داره. به این ترتیب هستش که تکنیک خیلی ساده‌ای هم هست و به این ترتیب که آقای گری هم نشون خواهند داد. تا عدد 4 میشمریم و نفس همینطور نفس رو میکشیم. دم 4. بعد از اینکه نفس رو کشیدیم باز تا عدد 4 تا شماره 4 نفس رو نگه میداریم. بعد از عدد 4 باز با همون شمارش 4 بازدم رو انجام میدیم و بعد از اینکه نفس خالی شد باز هم تا عدد 4 همینطور بدون هوا نگه می‌داریم. پس این 4 قسمت پیدا میکنه. الان آقای گری نشون خواهند داد که چه جوریه و با همین تکنیک رو انجام میدیم.
Okay, great. So let's just take one big deep breath in and out. One more. Release the breath out. And now we'll start box breathing. So we're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Now, allow yourself to just breathe normally. And just notice the difference after only a minute and a half or so of box breathing. Maybe you feel a different kind of calmness. Maybe your concentration was so clearly focused on the words or on the counting that you allowed yourself to disappear. Maybe you feel a little bit more relaxed in the body. But just notice what's happening inside of you. And then we'll talk a little bit of why breath work can help us to access a calmer and more clear state of mind and emotional life. You're muted.
بعد از انجام این تکنیک، همینطور که الان دوستان با هم انجام دادیم، شاید کمی آرومتر شده باشید. شاید تمرکزتون به سبب اینکه روی انجام این تکنیک فقط تمرکز کردید و به اعداد بتونید صحیح بشمارید تمرکز کردید، تمرکزتون بیشتر بوده، در لحظه حضور پیدا کردید به جای اینکه فکرتون این ور اون ور بره و حتی شاید ریلکس تر شدید. کمی خودتون رو ریلکس حس می‌کنید با اینکه فقط خیلی کوتاه این تکنیک رو انجام دادید. در اسلاید بعدی توضیح میدیم که چه اتفاقی در بدن میفته که همچین حسی به ما دست میده.
So let's just talk briefly about why breath work helps us, especially with our mental and emotional detoxification, and connects us, most importantly, to a deeper state of being, a more calm state of being. So slow, deep breathing increases the activity in the vagus nerve, which is a part of the parasympathetic nervous system. And the vagus nerve controls and also measures the activity of many of our internal organs. So when the vagus nerve is stimulated through this breathing, a kind of calmness starts to move through the body. It pervades the body. The heart rate slows. Blood pressure tends to decrease. The muscles relax. When the vagus nerve informs the brain of the changes in the body, the brain also relaxes. And then feelings of peacefulness increase. That's one reason why breathing techniques work, both neurobiologically and physiologically. That's just, one reason. There are other things as well, where obviously sitting calmly and other things are happening. But that's one of the big reasons why breath work helps to sort of change our state of being and bring us into a new state of mind and emotion.
Thank you. این اسلاید خیلی مهم هست و توضیح میده که در بدن واقعا چه اتفاقی میفته که با این نوع تنفس این حس آرامش در بدن به وجود میاد. آرام نفس کشیدن باعث اکتیو شدن، باعث فعال شدن و یا بیشتر فعال شدن یک عصبی در بدن میشه به نام عصب وگس که قسمتی از شبکه پاراسمپاتیک در بدن ما هستش. این وقتی که این نرو فعال میشه، کار این عصب این هستش که میزان فعالیت خیلی از ارگان‌های داخلی ما رو کنترل میکنه. وقتی که این نرو فعال میشه، این عصب فعال میشه، اتفاقی که میفته حس آرام بودن در بدن به وجود میاد. در نتیجه در ضربان قلب آرام میشه، منظم میشه، فشار خون پایین میاد و عضلات ریلکس میشن. وقتی که این اتفاقات در بدن میفته، این عصب به مغز این فرمان رو میفرسته که بدن آروم شده و به تبع اون مغز هم شروع میکنه به آرام بودن و ریلکس میشه و بنابراین حس آرامش در بدن به وجود میاد. این یکی از چند دلیلی هستش که تکنیک های تنفسی مکانیزم های در دو حالت با مکانیزم های عصب شناسی و روانشناسی کار میکنه.
Let's also talk a little bit briefly about what's called cardiac coherence. And I mean, all of these things can be measured, and there are lots of scientific studies backing up these kind of things, but it makes total sense as well that when you breathe more slowly, then your heart rate tends to decrease. Obviously, when you breathe more quickly, your heart rate tends to go up. You start to get more activity. So there's also a little bit of a difference that when you breathe in, your heart rate is at one speed, but when you breathe out, it tends to even decrease even more. So one of the ways that we can increase a lowering or decrease the heart rate, increase lowering heart rate, or decrease work with the heart rate, is simply by breathing. So by lengthening the out breath, the exhale, we can start to quiet the heart. And then as well, that brings that the vagus nerve brings that information up into the brain, and the brain can quiet as well. We're not going to do this next breathing exercise because it's very good for relaxation. It's called the 4-7-8 breathing technique, and you can find it on YouTube if you're interested. You can even find it on my YouTube channel. I do some films about this kind of stuff. And basically, it's elongating the breath on the out breath. So you'll breathe in for the count of 4, you'll hold for the count of 7, and you'll breathe out for the count of 8. In doing that, you really start to calm the body down. And experience will tell you if you do this, you will definitely start to feel more calm.
Perfect, thank you. I just have a quick question here. You mentioned we need to, the whole aim here looks to me that we want to decrease the heart rate, but what is a higher heart rate representing here? I mean, in other words, why do we really want to decrease our heart rate here?
Well, when we decrease the heart rate, we relax our brain, we relax our body, and we allow ourselves to access the higher functioning areas of our brain. So basically, if we're very high heart rate, we might be totally in fight or flight mode. Everything's happening. We either fight, reaction, or we run away. When we start to relax the brain and kind of connect through other parts of the brain, we come into the amygdala, the kind of area where we deal with emotions and emotional connection with other people, and then even into the neocortex. Now, it's no surprise, like, that you've heard probably this eureka moment when someone's in the shower, they're totally relaxed, they're in the shower, it's like, oh my God, that's the idea, because your body is starting to relax. So by working with the breath, we're able to sort of engineer that kind of relaxation. So we have a way of doing it. It's a technique that we can use to help us to be more creative, to find a way to access the higher functioning areas of the brain so that we can then use that information and take some action.
Perfect. Very good. So I just quickly translate this slide for the viewers. انجام تکنیک های تنفسی باعث انسجام در قلب هم میشه. به این صورت که ضربان بالای قلب معمولاً مرتبط هستش با استرس در بدن. اینکه ذهن آشفته هستش و یک استرسی در درون هست، میتونه حالت فایت اور فلایت بهش میگن. فایت اور فلایت مرتبط با انواع استرس هستش که فرد در مواجهه با موارد استرس‌ها میخواد که مواجهه بکنه، یعنی مبارزه بکنه و یا فرار بکنه از اون موقعیت استرس‌ها. با تکنیک‌های تنفسی ما میتونیم قلب رو آرومتر بکنیم، ضربانش رو، و در نتیجه به مغز این سیگنال رو بفرستیم که میتونه ریلکس بکنه، آروم بکنه. و یک تکنیکی که حالا امروز اینجا انجام نخواهیم داد، تکنیک به جای 4-4-4-4 که انجام دادیم 4-7-8 هستش. به این معنی که تا شماره 4 نفس رو میگیریم دم و بعد تا 7 میشماریم و نفس رو حبس میکنیم، نگه میداریم و بعد در 8 شماره بسیار آروم، یعنی 2 برابر دم، بازدم رو انجام میدیم. این خیلی به خصوص در مواردی که استرس زیاد داریم و یا درست قبل از خواب، وقتی که در تختتون هستید میخواین بخوابید، میتونید این تکنیک رو انجام بدین. چند دقیقه اگه این تکنیک رو انجام بدید، تجربه ثابت کرده که خیلی ریلکس میکنه و راحت‌تر میتونید حتی به خواب برید.
Beautiful. So now that we're more connected, we've done some breath work and we've discussed the overall idea that we're talking about detoxification of the emotions and the mental state. let's look at what I call the 6 C's to mental and emotional detoxing. And the first, as we discussed, is connection. And it's so important to connect before we do deep work. If we rush in and we think we're going to solve this without really thinking and allowing ourselves to really connect, both to our mind and to our emotional life, and to try to get into that state of being, it's very hard to come up with the results that we need. In the same way, if we're going to work with someone else, we want to connect with them. So we understand what the goal might be, the vision might be, whatever it is. So that kind of connection is extremely important. The best is to connect together in this way. You might both do breathing together or as a group, but definitely before you're going into meetings or anything like that, if you connect, you're much more likely to look for solutions than to come into this area where you're into confrontation. So that's extremely important, connecting. The second is creating. You know, we said earlier that it's extremely easy to look at someone else, to blame someone else. It's up to you to create a life filled with joy. And that means basically that your state of being, your deepest state, and the actions that you take are aligned. And when we're there, things seem to work really beautifully for us. It's when we're out of alignment, when we're getting pushed, we feel like we're getting pushed or battered or pulled in one direction or the other, that we're not really filling ourselves with joy. So that's extremely important. The third C, cleanse. So we know that a detoxification of the body is just extremely amazing. The mind and the heart can also be cleansed on a big detox way, in terms of, like, you could go to a retreat, for instance, and you could do a 10 days of nothing but meditating and allowing things to release and relax from your body. But ultimately, we need to try to find ways to cleanse daily, to create a space in ourselves where we don't allow these things to affect us, and we allow ourselves to be who we want to be. And that leads us to confronting and facing our problem areas. Often we look at other people as being the problem. We should be able to look at ourselves and say, okay, this is triggering me, this is annoying me, this is bothering me. What is it in me that needs to be dealt with? Confront that, cleanse that out. And one of the key ways to do that is when you see that confrontation, that guy really irritated me, to relax and release. We don't need to keep that in there. The more stuff that we stuff in, the more things that annoy us and we stick it in there, the more that we have to clean out later. Let it go. It's practice. Obviously, we need techniques to help us do this, but this is one of the key things. The fifth one, collaborate. Basically, build relationships that empower you. And when you're in a relationship with someone that is just empowering you, that is collaborating with you to make a more joy-filled life, that's definitely the way to go. We know that by connecting to ourselves and others, we definitely have more chance of being successful in our work towards a more joyful and clean life. And the last is contribute. Basically, and again, there are many studies, but giving is such a powerful, powerful tool. So if you feel that you can contribute in whatever way, allow yourself some time to contribute. So those are the 6 C's. We could probably do like a 2-day workshop just on these 6 C's and dive deeply into each one. They give you a little bit of hint of what areas you could go into on your own in your own personal journey. So these are just some things to think about in terms of detoxification.
Yes, Gary. And for just a reminder about the time, we are only 10 minutes.
I see.
Yes, I'll be very quick in translation. این قسمت این اسلاید راجع به 6 موردی صحبت میکنه که به ما کمک میکنه یک منشی رو پی بگیریم، در پیش بگیریم که باعث پاکسازی ذهنی و هیجانات ما بشه. اولیش وصل شدن هست، ارتباط هست، در وهله اول ارتباط با خود و بعد از اون ارتباط با دیگران که بتونیم در این مسیر کار بکنیم، نه افرادی که بیشتر بکنند این افکار ناراحت کننده رو، بلکه بچینیم و با این افراد در وهله اول خودمون و بعد در ارتباط با دیگران بتونیم به هم کمک بکنیم برای تمیز کردن و پاک کردن ذهنمون. و دومی کرییت هست که در اینجا آمدانه خلق ترجمه میکنیم، خلق کردن یک چیزی. زندگی رو خلق بکنید که درش شادی باشه، خوشحالی باشه، که بشه اون اعمال، اون درون ما، اون حالت بودن با اون اعمال ما یکی بشه، همتراز بشه، همگون باشه. و بعد از اون کلینز هستش. کلینزینگ به معنی پاکسازی، میتونه پاکسازی بدن باشه، در ضمن پاکسازی ذهن باشه و پاکسازی قلب باشه. پاکسازی دوره در مؤسسه نوا هست به نام دوره پاکسازی درون که هر سه تا اینها رو در نظر میگیره و به صورت کلی نگر پاکسازی انجام میشه، به این معنی که هم به صورت فیزیکی بدن پاکسازی میشه از سمومات و در ضمن روی ذهن کار میشه و روی هیجانات و قلب کار میشه. چهارمی مورد کانفرانت هست به معنی مواجهه کردن. مواجهه یعنی که با اون چیزهایی که شما در درون شما مشکل ساز هست مواجهه بکنید. ببینید اون واقعا چی هستش که شما رو داره اذیت میکنه، ناراحت میکنه. اگر از دست یک نفری ناراحت میشید، اگر یک کار یک شخص خاصی هستش که شما رو اذیت میکنه، در اتصال با خود ببینید که واقعا اون چیه که در درون شما خشم رو برای مثال شعله‌ور میکنه، برای چی از اون مورد شما ناراحت میشید. مورد پنجم کلابوریت هست، یعنی همکاری کردن. همکاری بکنید، ارتباط برقرار بکنید با دیگرانی که بتونن به شما کمک کنن و شما به اونها کمک بکنید که قدرت ببخشید به هم دیگه و به این ترتیب شانس موفقیت خودتون رو هم بالا میبرید. و مورد آخر دهش و بخشش هستش که بتونید کمک بکنید و به دیگران و از این طریق بتونید به پاکسازی قلبی ذهنی خودتون کمک بکنید.
All right, great. Let's just wrap up with two more tools. We've gone through a little bit of breathing and a lot of connecting and all this kind of stuff. One thing that's really fun to do, and I think that I can highly recommend it, is that's keeping a grumble journal. Because basically, we want to get out the stuff that irritates us right away. And so if something's coming in, get it out right away. This is irritating me. I hate the traffic. Whatever it is, because you don't want it inside. Allow that to be there. And even better than a grumble journal is if you can get a grumble partner. Now, we often grumble to people, but we don't have an agreement. And so a grumble partner isn't just someone that you complain to. People complain to their friends. It's not that at all. What it is, it's a pact that you make with someone else. And you say to them, listen, can we have a grumble? And at the end of that grumble, it's gone. You're not going to carry that with you. That person has heard it. You've been heard. You've been seen. You've allowed to get it out. Just get it out. And then you can release and relax. That is the key. Otherwise, things leak out. You're back talking and arguing, all kinds of stuff. We want to release the stuff as quickly as possible. A grumble partner, if you can't get a grumble partner, that's someone that really is totally understanding that we're not going to the idea is that you admit the tension and then you release it. Release the tension. Yeah. Share the tension, release the tension. Beautiful. So we can go through that. I think that's a really great tool and it's very fun to do too.
Perfect. Yes. همونجور که در ترجمه اینجا نوشته شده، یکی از این ابزارها برای اینکه این افکار منفی که دائما در ذهن ما هست رو بتونیم تخلیه بکنیم، داشتن دفترچه یادداشتی برای غر زدن هستش. در از دفترچه یادداشت غر زدن و شاید بهتر از این یک دوستی باشه که باهاش یک قرارداد ببندید، نه هر کسی، بلکه یک دوستی که باهاش قراردادی داشته باشید که بشینید در یک ساعت مشخصی غر بزنید، حرف همدیگر رو بشنوید، شنیده بشین، دیده بشین و بعد از اون تموم بشه، از فرد خارج بشه. داشتن این دفترچه خیلی خوبه. میتونید هر چیزی که هست رو طورها رو اونجا بنویسید، نقها رو بنویسید، شکایت‌ها، شکوه‌ها رو بنویسید، از شما خارج میشه، میره بیرون، وگرنه میتونه تبدیل به غیبت بشه، میتونه تبدیل به مشاجره بشه و مشکل ساز بشه.
Great. And the last thing that we'll talk about today is meditation. And basically, yeah, I mean, you know, there's so much research about meditation. If you're not meditating and you're thinking about detoxing and cleansing emotionally, mentally, physically, you got to meditate. So there are many tools that you can use, many different types of meditation. You can meditate on something, you can meditate with the breath, you can meditate on a candle, you can do all kinds of walking meditation. I definitely recommend daily meditation, and it's really great to do at least twice a day. It's like clearing everything out. I'll just mention briefly one technique that I like. It's called centering prayer. And you basically, very similar to transcendental meditation, if you've tried that or if you've seen that before, you find a word that you really care about, that's important to you, and then you repeat that. And you meditate until that word dissolves, concentrating maybe on the breath, one of these breathing techniques, and allow yourself to relax and release and surrender.
Perfect. Thank you so much. در این اسلاید آخر هم یک تکنیک دیگه معرفی شده برای پاکسازی بسیار عمیق در لایه‌های مختلف، بسیار عمیق در ذهن، و تکنیک مراقبه هست. هر تکنیکی از مراقبه هست، میتونه تکنیک مراقبه راه رفتن باشه. هر مراقبه که شما انجام میدید 2 بار در روز، هر بار 20 دقیقه، حتما این رو انجام بدید و بسیار به شما کمک خواهد کرد. به خاطر ضیق وقت مجبوریم که برنامه رو در اینجا به اتمام برسونیم. از آقای گری فبری بسیار تشکر میکنیم که امروز با ما بودن و همینطور از شما شنوندگان و کسانی که این برنامه رو گوش کردن تشکر میکنیم که با ما بودید. در سری برنامه‌های لایو در صفحه اینستاگرام نوا اینترنشنال. Thank you very much, Gary. We really appreciate you taking your time and being with us today. I am talking about the mind and body detoxification. I know that you have a very busy schedule, and I really appreciate your time putting together this beautiful and educated slide. And I'm also looking forward to working with you in our future programs. The recording will be live. This live session recording will be posted on our Instagram page as well as Nawa International's YouTube channel. For those who miss this live session, they will be able to see it and enjoy it later on. Again, it was a great pleasure hosting you, and thank you being with us, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, you too. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Have a great one. Bye.